All right, Justin, welcome to another episode of Covered, where we shelter our homeowners with roofing knowledge. Today, we are going to talk through, similarly to the show like Mythbusters,
Yep.
although we won't have all the visuals to go along with it. That would be fun. But just talk through some myths of roofing in general, and maybe like specifically the product and that kind of thing. But before we dive into that, tell us a little bit about who you are, what your role is here. Start there.
So I'm our compliance manager first and foremost. So I handle our safety stuff for the company, from our internal employees, but also for our subcontractors that we use,
Okay.
and everything that entails. I am OSHA certified, but then I'm also our qualifier for our general contractor's license.
Okay.
So I get pulled in at times when there's something needed a little more, if there's structural work or a outside project outside of just normal everyday shingles or something like that. I get
Yeah.
pulled in a lot of times for those kind of questions and things.
Okay. So on that topic, let's clarify what is the requirement in the state of North Carolina, for a roofing contractor in terms of like, does someone need a license to, put on a roof, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so it kind of depends, I would say. In the state of North Carolina, anything that's contracted over the amount of $40,000 is the contract limit that now requires a license.
Okay.
And then also anything that is considered structural. So in the state of North Carolina, technically, removal and replace of shingles, as long as that's all you're doing, you don't have to have a license for that. But anytime you're talking about roof decking, trusses, any type of framing, anything like that, now you do have to have a license in the state of North Carolina because that actually does require pulling a permit.
Okay. Okay.
So
So you see that mostly on the commercial side.
we see it more on the commercial side, but every now and then, depending upon the residence, again, that contract limit's what typically pushes you over the scale on the residential side. Is if
Okay.
it's a large roof or maybe a metal standing seam roof, something like that, that's going to push you over that $40,000 threshold.
Okay. So let me ask you this. So we re-roof a lot of churches.
Hmm.
Some churches are smaller than some of the houses that we re-roof, right? So technically, because that would be considered commercial, would that require permitting?
Not necessarily. Again, it depends upon those different factors. Whereas we might consider it commercial because you've got more foot traffic and things that you're working with. So for us as a company, we consider it commercial because there's some extra safety precautions and planning, organization that we
Yeah.
take. But it doesn't necessarily turn it into a commercial project just because it's a church.
Okay. Okay. Well, thanks for clarifying
Yeah.
that. So let's talk a little bit about the OSHA stuff. So I don't know, maybe past couple of years ago or so. How long you been with us now?
I've been here just over 2 years now.
Okay, all
Yeah.
right. So because you have that OSHA certification, you're able to teach OSHA safety. You know exactly what if someone from OSHA happened to stop at a job site, what they'd be looking for, and to make sure that we follow all the regulations and the safety and all that. So talk to me a little bit about the importance of safety here at Five Star. What kind of safety training do you provide? You said not just with our internal staff, but also with the crews that actually do the job.
Right.
All right, so speak to that.
Yeah, I think Five Star is a great company because we do safety and work on safety not just because it's a requirement and it's regulations that's handed down from the state, but I think Five Star really does care about not only our employees, like I said, our internal employees, but also our subcontractors. We want to see everybody go home safely.
Yeah.
And so I think it's something that we're committed to and staying safe. So we do regular trainings for especially our top areas that OSHA says fatalities naturally occur in. Always your biggest one is your falls. So things like fall protection, personal protective equipment on site, those types of things we do very regular. And then there's other smaller trainings throughout the year as well. But it's something that we have maintained for ourselves that we take very seriously. And again, it's because we want to see our employees go home each and every night. So
Yeah, yeah. And we were just talking about that this recently. A new thing that we want to implement with our site supervisors
Yes.
regarding their uniform. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. So
Why we are going to be doing that?
right. So on the job site, OSHA, one of the OSHA standards talks about, personal protective equipment, and one of those things is hard hats, high vest, high visibility vests. When we're utilizing power tools, we're wearing safety glasses, and then also if we're handling materials that can cause scrapes, cuts, or punctures, we're wearing gloves.
Okay.
And so our guys have always worn their safety glasses and their gloves when they're handling those things or using power tools. But another thing we're going to be implementing is our site supervisors will be wearing hard hats and the high visibility vests when they're on site.
Okay.
Not only just again to maintain more safety and our commitment to that, but also just the look, and the homeowners will know, when they're on site, you can easily identify who it is from 5 Star that's running your job site. So when you have a question or anything like that that comes up, know right who to go to.
You can easily identify.
Easily identify.
Okay.
That's
Good
right.
deal. Good deal. Love it. Love it. All right. Well, let's just go ahead and transition to some questions, common questions that we are asked from our customers. Let's start off with the first one here. If my roof is not leaking, they feel like it's fine, right? So particularly after maybe a big storm,
Right.
like we had that big hailstorm, March 16th, I believe it was. And was that the right date?
That's right.
Yeah, yeah. So it was a pretty large area. I think over 80,000 homes
Yep.
were impacted. Some, more so than others.
Right.
So how, yeah, I mean, is that true? Like, if I don't see anything, I'm looking, at my roof from my front yard and it looks completely normal.
Right.
Right. So how do I know if I've got a potential problem?
Right. Yeah. So I think there's a lot that kind of goes into this. Number one, if you've had an event like a major hailstorm, and that was a named storm with good size hail, especially. So anytime you have an event like that, I think it's very worthwhile having a professional come out and inspect your roof. The problem with hail a lot of times is, unless it's very large hail that they see like in Texas and places like that, where it's actually putting holes right there in the roof,
Yeah.
you don't see the problem right away. And from the ground, it looks perfectly normal. Everything looks fine. And like you said, hey, I don't have a leak, so I don't need to worry about it.
Yep.
Well, the problem with hail, what it does is it takes those granules off the shingle, which is that defensive layer, is what's actually protecting it from the elements.
Okay.
And over time, what happens is the sun is going to eat away at that fiberglass matting, and you're going to have problems a year or 2 years down the road. And you can actually, have more problems now at this point. Whereas if you have it inspected, have it looked at, it's something that you can work through that insurance process, if that's the case. And, we can help you walk through all of that to get it taken care of before it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
What I always tell homeowners is don't wait until you've got drywall issues and everything now in the house, wet insulation and all this stuff, and now that you're going to have to do extra on top of that.
Right.
Your roof, we always talk about the foundation, but really your roof is kind of a big foundation for your home in that point.
It's that first line of
It's
defense.
that first line of defense.
Yeah.
And then even when you don't have a major storm like that, just having, especially, if your roof is a year or two old, it's not as big a deal, I would say, as long as it was installed properly by a reputable professional company that it follows manufacturer specifications and all that. But
Yeah.
as you start getting 5 years and later, having regular inspections of your roof is important.
Yeah.
Because even if a roof is said to last 20, 30, 40 years, whatever that manufacturer spec is, there are a lot of different factors that play into that. And so things could be looking very different on top of your roof, and that's where we have a 365 program where we can put you on a maintenance program where we come out twice a year to inspect. You can call in for an inspection. And then anytime you do see something out of place, definitely call in. Because if you call us because you noticed one shingle was out of place, we're still going to come out and inspect the entirety of your property and your whole roof and that whole system. And so having those regular inspections is going to save you in the long run.
All right. And do we charge for that service?
We do not charge for that service. The 365 is a maintenance program that we do charge for, and that includes some things in that. Like I said, that's twice a year we come out, we inspect your roof, we do kind of what we call a tune-up. If there's anything, sealing nails, stuff like that, we clean off your roof, and then we give you that inspection report.
So when a roof is inspected, what's typically, I won't say missing, but some of the problems that are on the roof that you notice?
Yeah, so a lot of things. Probably most common is pipe boots.
Okay.
The collars that go around those PVC pipes that are sticking out of your roof. Now we utilize what's called a perma boot. and it's kind of like a fully sealed system, and it's no longer that plastic that's gonna heat up and over time dry rot.
Yep.
That's probably the most common thing. The older style pipe boots, 5 to 7 years was kind of their average lifespan.
Yeah.
They start to dry rot. That's one of the big things we see. And then the other one is exposed nails. So we now, all of our roofing systems that we install, we do a no exposed fastener
Nice.
roofing system. And so that helps long term for our customers moving forward. But what we see a lot from people who call in is there'll be a nail at the ridge cap in the caulking that they put on there originally. Again,
Right.
10 years down the road, it's deteriorated.
Yeah.
And so we get a lot of those calls. That's probably our most common things.
Okay. All right. Good deal. All right. Let's move on to the next question. Does a darker colored roof really make my home hotter? So I get asked this all the time. You know,
Yep.
if I pick the black shingle, which is probably the most common color that, you know, homeowners like, especially now, that kind of the trend is the black gutters, you know, black roof, and, you know, it does really look nice.
Right.
But is that going to make the home a lot hotter than if they went with like a weathered wood, more of a tanner kind of a roof? So speak to that.
Yeah, so I would say yes and no. The yes is a black shingle going to be hotter than a lighter colored shingle? The answer is yes. If you were to measure the surface temperature of that shingle, obviously we know darker colors absorb more heat and than lighter colors. So that shingle is going to be darker. The no side comes into now with some advancements in, I say, the technology, but the materials and things like that, and what we know about roof ventilation and proper ventilation is really going to be your biggest factor. Also, the age of your home and your insulation, what that looks like for your home is going to obviously affect that. But proper ventilation is one of the biggest things of helping maintain that proper temperature in your attic, and you don't get any premature deterioration of the shingles with that. But also now we use synthetic underlayment instead of the old felt tar paper, and that's a big factor as well because it doesn't trap heat. It allows the whole home to cool a lot better.
Oh, okay. Nice.
So-
Nice. Okay. So, fact of the matter is, when it's 95 degrees outside,
It's going to be hot.
regardless of what the color shingle is, it's gonna be cooking.
It's going to be hot. Yeah.
So, but the importance of having proper ventilation is definitely the most important thing, probably, to
Correct.
make sure that shingle lasts.
Correct. It's more about what's happening underneath all of that than it is necessarily that surface and what that temperature is.
So, this wasn't on the list, but it just made me think of the warranties, right? So, like, we offer a Golden Pledge warranty.
Correct.
Covers 25 years of workmanship and 50 years non-prorated against manufacturer defect.
Right.
But if the roof is not properly ventilated, then that does void that warranty.
Correct.
So that is very, very important.
Correct. That's where our sales guys and our production team work really hard to, as we're looking at people's roofs, and again, there's so many different things out there, the age of your house and how it was originally designed and all that, but we're really looking at all those factors. And that's why we say it's a roofing system. It's not just you can call anybody yes to slap some shingles up there.
Yeah.
But that's not what we're doing here at 5 Star. We really want to protect you for the long term, and that includes so much more than just putting some shingles on your roof.
So, all right, again, not on the list. I've seen a lot of roofs that you've got the box vents, right? Or the turbine vents. Some people call them the twirly birds or whatever, right? And then you've got ridge vents. So if you have a combination of box vents, the twirly birds, ridge vent, the gable vents, is that kind of counterintuitive, or it's like, hey, that's more ventilation, so it's definitely going to be better for my roof because I have more stuff on the roof that allows air to escape?
It's definitely not better. I would say, again, there's a lot of factors that go into that. It's wanting to find the best solution for you and your home. And I think the problem comes down to is there's so many contractors out there that we're selling product so much, and so they're just slapping things on the roof, just like you mentioned ridge vent. Ideally, we would love to have soffit vent with ridge vent. That's your, in my opinion, best way to ventilate a home. And then you don't need those other things. But there's so many roofs that we see that we go to reinstall a roof on that they have ridge vent on, but then you open it up and there's actually no ridge vent cut into that sheeting. And so it's literally doing nothing for you. They've just sold you on ridge vent. So I think it comes down to each individual home and allowing us to look at that and what is your best solution. But I think so many people, again, we just put more ventilation there. It's got to be better. And that's not true because they can counteract with each other because they're all designed to work a different way.
Yeah.
And so again, we want to get to the simplest but most effective for you. And the reason I say simplest too is because we are under the belief that the least amount of penetrations that we can put in your roof, the better, because those are your leak points.
Yep.
And so just putting all the boxes in, or the whirlybirds, the power attic fans, like, you don't need all those things to get the solution that you need. And so there's no need to do that.
More opportunity for water to get in.
That's right.
For sure. The more holes you have, it's kind of common sense.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
So on the topic of ridge vent, I've seen the ridge vent go all the way out to the edge of the roof, right? And I've seen them kind of cut back a couple of feet from the edge.
Right.
Okay. And definitely had homeowners say, hey,
Yep.
I feel like I'm not getting the proper ventilation because it's not extending all the way out to the edge.
Right.
But what's really going on there?
So what's really going on there, number one, is just the design of the roof, and then also manufacturer specs. So the design of the roof, if you think about it, if you look at your roof, most homes nowadays have an overhang, and that's the area that we call that soffit, but it's the outside wall, and then the outside of the roof overhangs, a foot, 18 inches, whatever that is on your home.
That's where that soffit goes, yeah.
Right, that's where that soffit is. And so by number one, running your ridge vent all the way out there, you're literally venting nothing because it's not over home. Yeah. Manufacturer specs say, within 12 inches of the interior warm wall for that vent system. And so that's why we offset that, because again, you're getting inside of that warm wall.
Yeah.
And there's reasons for that, like, wind-driven rain and things like that. You have less chance of having areas where that can get in and things of that nature. So that's just the best practice. I think homeowners sometimes will see maybe it was installed all the way to the end on their current roof, and then when we go back to install it, it's just educating the homeowner again on proper installation, but also the reason why we're doing that. So
right. It doesn't do anything.
Doesn't do anything for you
at all. Yeah,
correct.
Because there is no hole that's actually
correct
on the roof. So cosmetic would be the only reason.
Cosmetic's the only reason for it to be there.
Yeah. All right. Is it better to patch a roof than replace the whole thing? And when does patching become a waste of money? So just look at repair, right? We've seen the checkerboard roofs. They don't look pretty.
Yep.
So when do you recommend just doing a repair over a full replacement?
So I would say a good opportunity for repair, again, is if you have a younger roof that is still overall in good condition.
Okay.
And
younger, how do you define younger?
So I would say, less than 10 years is a good candidate, in my opinion. And the way I kind of look at it with homeowners is looking at the entirety of the roof. So if you've got a roof that is in still great shape, still got, a lot of the granulars still there, not lifting shingles, not, other problems going on, and you've got one area that, you could have had a tree fall on it, you could have had some nail pops, there's so many different things that obviously could happen, but that's a great candidate for repair, because the entirety of the roof and that system that we talk about a lot is still there and still intact and still functioning to its, properly and how it's supposed to. Yeah. When you get into older roofs, again, starting to look, and I always use 10 years, but that can vary. Depends on a lot of factors, depends upon your climate that you're in, depends upon how much sun you get, all those things that can kind of change how fast or how slow the shingle starts to naturally deteriorate. But if you start to see a lot of granular loss, a lot of blistering, a lot of wear and tear, you've got entire slopes where the shingles are uplifting and coming unsealed. Yeah. It now no longer financially makes sense, number one, to just repair, because you're starting to creep up on the cost of a full roof. Yeah. But also number two is sometimes people will say, well, what if we just replace this slope or this side or things? And the problem that you run into there is, say you have a 15-year-old roof on your whole home. It's 15 years old, and we go to replace one slope of the roof. Now that section of the roof is always going to be offset in time-wise and maintenance than the rest of the roof.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And so it just sometimes makes more sense to look at, let's go ahead and look at replacing the whole roof. And I think people get scared of that because it's obviously a larger upfront cost. Yeah. But like I tell homeowners, it's never cheaper than now to put on a roof. Yep. Construction continues to see material increases and things, so it's never cheaper than now to put on a new roof. And then we have financing options and things that we can help homeowners through that,
Yep.
and to break it down for them to get it more manageable, but then set them up again for the long term,
Yep.
and looking at that. And then the final thing I would say is it also, looking at what material you currently have on your roof. We still see a good number of roofs that have, kind of the older, outdated 3-tab. It's not something we really install anymore. Even if it's not something that manufacturers are producing just a ton of anymore, because again, it's the price difference between that and jumping into an architectural shingle is not
Right.
not that great.
Yep.
And so if you've got a 3-tab shingle, and it's 10, 15 years old, it's definitely probably a lot better for you to start looking at replacing that roof than it is to just trying to patch it here and there. Because the reality is, if you're having problems now in one area, and again, as the more age you get on that roof, the more likely it is that you're going to continue to have more problems and they're going to start popping up.
Yeah.
And so then you've got to weigh, it looks like it's only $800 for a repair now, but 2 months from now you may call us back, and we get those repeat clients.
Right.
And so to start, at what point does it make more sense to just go ahead and look at replacing the roof instead of all these small repairs that are going to add up over the next 2 years or so?
So we speak about warranties with repairs, I guess it could be easy to think, all right, I'm getting a repair and I have some new shingles that are being put on the roof. Right. So then would that mean that I get that off the shelf warranty, 10 years, manufacturers, against defects on, the 25 shingles that I have put on the roof? Or is that not the case?
That is not the case.
Okay.
So manufacturers warranty full replacements.
Okay.
At 5-star, we will warranty our repair, our labor, for 6 months.
Okay.
And the reason for that is we still stand behind the work we do, but anytime you're making a repair, you're making a repair on something and tying into something that is not our work. Yeah. And again, is an age difference and older there. And the other thing that you have to look at with repairs is, again, depending upon the shingle, if it's an outdated shingle or maybe it's been discontinued by the manufacturer or whatnot, I can't even get the exact same shingle that you have on your roof. So we're matching now with other manufacturers, other material types and things like that, and that can cause some issues trying to, quote unquote, warranty that. Yeah. But
so is it possible to get a identical match with the roof that's 10 years old, even like architectural to architectural? And so let's say I have a weatherwood color shingle, and now I'm doing a repair on a section of my roof, and now I've got brand new weatherwood shingle. Is it going to match?
It's not going to match. Even if I get the exact same manufacturer and the exact same color, it's still not going to match. Because you got to think about the wear that those shingles that have been sitting out in the sun and the heat and the snow and all those things are going to be discolored and worn down compared to a brand new shingle out of the pack. So that is a question we get quite often, and it's something we do have to make just. Again, it's education.
It might be worth replacing just because you don't like the way it looks.
And some people don't. Some people don't like the aesthetics of it.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's a good option. And then at that point to look at what is the whole roof going to look like.
Right.
Then.
Right. Yeah. Depending on where that repair is located as well, it could make a big difference. All right. Will my insurance cover my roof no matter what, or are there loopholes that the homeowner should know about?
I wouldn't say there's loopholes. I don't think it's a loophole. It's just, I think, again, a reputable. I do believe license is important. Contractor that can help you through that process. And I don't think that's a loophole. I think that's just best practice. Yeah. We deal with homeowners every day, and some people have more knowledge than others. Some people have been in construction. Some people, know about shingles or the process of how all that works, but a lot of people don't. And we don't, come to you expecting you to do that. That's what we want to be there for. Is to be that voice for you. And that's what we do with insurance companies. Is we advocate on your behalf. To be able to get you what your policy defines. And so, the March 16th storm is a great example of that. We had legitimate hail damage. I think we're one of the companies too that I climbed personally several roofs. Can't keep count of how many, but I know several roofs that I climbed from that storm that did not have damage. The roofs held up just fine. Maybe it was a newer shingle or whatnot, but the roof held up fine, and I was able to get down off the roof and tell the homeowner, there's nothing you need to do. Continue to maintain the roof as you're doing. You don't need to file a claim. But then we did have legitimate, storm damage that homeowners did need to file that claim. And so being able to be present from the beginning, I think, is a big help for homeowners. To know the different ways that your roof tie in and things. And I think that's the the loopholes that people kind of think about is,
Okay.
if this slope ties into this slope, but this slope didn't get as much damage, but I've still got to tear into that
Right.
to make that happen. We have a claim to go back to the insurance to say, we need to go ahead and replace that slope as well.
Right.
And so again, I think it's just advocating for you to the best that we can, and helping you through that process to be there with you every step of the way.
Yeah. 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 I've seen many times where the insurance company, we always say like they're on your side, like a good neighbor. You're in good hands. Yada yada. Great marketing.
Great marketing.
Not necessarily completely factual, but they're interested in saving some money.
That's
and,
right.
if you're not working with a contractor that knows and understands, I won't say the game, but how the insurance process works,
Right.
then you're not likely to get as much covered as you potentially
Most
could.
favorable outcome.
Right, yeah. Without knowing what the codes are and that kind of thing.
Correct.
Right. So, all right, very good, very good. All right, talk to me about the materials, like the different shingle material. We got 3-tab, we have the architectural shingle, you got metal roofing, of course. Are they all kind of the same? Are they vastly different? So speak to that.
Yeah, they're definitely different. 3-tab is what I would say again is kind of our outdated. It's typically one of your cheaper options to install, just because of again labor and material, rates. But the difference between 3-tab and architectural nowadays has drastically reduced. When they first came out with, architectural kind of became the big thing. There was a bigger price difference between the two, but now we've seen that decrease, just over manufacturing because there's more of it.
Okay. So not a big difference in cost.
Correct.
Okay.
But 3-tab has lower wind ratings, has lower impact ratings than architectural. And then when you jump into architectural, you also look at the different manufacturers. We are Master Elite President's Club with GAF, and that's who we primarily use is GAF shingles, and they have the best wind rating on the market. They have good impact ratings. They're working towards better impact ratings to get actual classifications for those. Even though the shingle already stands up to those impacts, they're trying to get those actual ratings. And you've got those differences there as well. So there's even those slight differences between, I would say, manufacturers and those shingles differences there. And then you step into metal. And metal by far is still your strongest thing out there.
Okay.
But as far as wind and impact rating go, because it's metal.
Yeah.
But we were just talking about this earlier, especially GAF shingle, I think, we can sell you a lifetime warranty on that. And they call it a lifetime shingle now because of, again, that unlimited wind rating.
Yeah.
It has the streak fighter technology in it, so it's going to, that algae is not going to be present there like that. And then, again, those impact ratings. So I think shingles are continuing to step up, and it's become a much longer, stronger roof, but at still a much affordable rate for homeowners.
Yeah. So the best for your standard metal roof, the tough rib, or like a standing
standing
seam.
seam.
So the best warranty would be over what period of time?
40 years.
40 years. And then the shingles with JF, we can do 50-year non-prorated, right? And with the 25-year workmanship, yeah. So yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Insurance companies now are dropping their homeowners because of the black streaking, right? And we were told that they will go out and do like drone footage and make assessments and then send letters to the homeowner saying, hey, we're going to drop you because your roof's aged out or what have you, right? That's, I think, because of the number of claims that are being filed for roof replacements. So does it mean that the roof has to be replaced?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Again, I think this is where a qualified professional to come out and actually inspect your roof. That black streaking is that algae that you're seeing.
Okay.
And it does start to deteriorate the roof. It can deteriorate the roof. But again, shingles nowadays, especially like the GAF, has that streak fighter in it.
Yeah.
And so it's got built-in zinc with that copper and stuff to help combat that. And that was something that we didn't have before in the shingles. And so we see it on those older shingles. And again, there's a lot of factors, how many trees you have around you and those kinds of things that can, it may be very different for you versus your neighbor, and you may have the exact same shingle, but maybe you have more black streaking and because of some of those factors. And what we were getting was phone calls, like you said, My insurance said that if I don't
Right.
get it done in the next 30 days, they're going to drop me.
Yeah.
And all insurance is trying to do is, again, they're just trying to, they have, they're a business just like everybody. And so they're trying to limit their exposure there. And so that's what they were getting. If you do have, again, a roof towards the end of its lifespan, it may be best to still look at replacing that roof. And that's something that we can help you to kind of talk through that and what's really best for you. But there are other options out there. If your roof qualifies for rejuvenation, there are rejuvenation processes to where we can come in, clean that roof,
Okay.
and then apply an oil-based product to help actually revive that roof. It'll relax that, reseal the shingles, relax the shingles so they lay down still, and that carries a 5-year warranty on it.
Okay.
And so there are options there as long as your roof qualifies. And what qualifies it is that it maintains still that its integrity. It's still got the majority of its granules.
Okay.
It's basically able to be cleaned and rejuvenated.
Okay.
If you're, 35 years in on a 30-year roof, you may be past that point.
Yeah.
Again, it just depends upon your roof and what that looks like.
Okay. All right. Good deal. So can you think of anything else? I know we talked about this a little bit before we came on here. That a homeowner has maybe brought up, or that you've heard that it's like, that's not necessarily true. That would be another myth.
Can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll think of something as soon as I log
Well,
out.
one thing, kind of going back a little bit in our conversation, in terms of insurance. So, if I'm the homeowner who goes, you know what, my roof does look fine to me. I think, I'm good. I'm just not going to have it checked out, and basically leave me alone, right?
Right.
But then I change my mind after a little while and go, all right, you know what? I'm seeing everybody in the neighborhood getting their roof replaced, so maybe I should have somebody look at mine, right? But I didn't do that until like 4 years later, 5 years later. Like I really waited, right? And now I'm seeing like, oh man, I got a leak, or I've maybe just noticed some other stuff, right? What am I still good?
So I believe, and you could answer this better than I can because you deal with that side a lot more than I do, but I believe they have 3 years from the storm date, correct?
Yep. Well, it depends on the carrier, really. Yeah.
Well, that's true. Yeah. We should always say that, but it does depend upon your carrier and your policy that you have. But you do have a time frame there that you've got to file those claims. And so again, that's what I always tell people too is get on ahead of things, be on the front end of those things. Don't let them become a problem. Is my biggest point is you've got this home that you spent this money on and that you value and that you care for. And so even regardless of the timeline that you have, if you've got 3 years or whatever your policy allows to file that, even if you've got that time, why wait on that with, again, the potential that it could cause problems on the interior and things that you're going to have to deal with, because all those things disrupt you.
Yeah.
If you've got multiple things that are going to have to now be repaired and people coming in and out of your house to do those things and all that kind of stuff, go ahead and take care of it now before it becomes a larger issue, is my point. So
Yeah, I agree. All right, how about this? My neighbor on my right side got their roof replaced. My neighbor on my left side got the roof replaced, and my neighbor right across the street got their roof replaced. So should it be pretty much a slam dunk guarantee that my roof's going to have damage on it and it will get replaced and paid for by insurance?
I would never say slam dunk guarantee from our standpoint. Again, your policy, your carrier, all those things play a factor. Again, and hail's a very different beast than kind of other storms and things. It's not like wind that you see. Maybe a more widespread hail can happen next door, but not at your place, but also the age of your roof.
If it's a newer shingle.
If it's a newer shingle, depending upon what it is, maybe it has a better, impact rating and held up better. So I think there's a lot of factors there. But what I will say, is it worth me calling 5-star and saying, hey, I'd like you to come look at my roof? Absolutely.
Right. And maybe that particular house had some massive trees that was protecting it, I've seen that many times too. And what really makes me scratch my head is when I see the shed in the backyard and it has hasn't been touched at all, but the home is
destroyed,
cooked. Yeah, it's bizarre. Wow, how did it miss that?
Yeah.
Especially if there is no tree, covering it. But like you said, at some point there's a line somewhere.
Right.
We don't know, where it is. But anyhow, all right. I think that pretty much covers it.
Great.
Thanks. Little awkward stop.